Thanks for joining us again. This is Barry Kazire. Get ready for some real live marketing. Are you a small business owner that is confused over your accounting records? Accounting by Art can help you eliminate this confusion with a free initial one-to-one consultation. Art offers QuickBooks training seminars covering both QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online, as well as addressing your specific needs and questions. Visit accountingbyart.com and set up your free consultation today. If you're looking for high-quality ink for your home or office at a great price, CR Office Technologies Inc. has the ink you need at the price you want. Visit crofficetech.com. That's crofficetech.com to get the price, the quality, and the service you've been looking for. Hey, welcome back to Real Live Marketing. Today we've got our friend Kate Brockmeyer. Kate is the owner, founder, CEO of Business Women Connecting. And I was really pleased to hear that one of Kate's favorite things to do was cold call. She's about to give you an awesome show on cold calling. Right after the show, I'm going to give you 8 tips that encapsulate what Kate and I are going to be talking about here during the show. So sit back and listen. Stick around for right afterwards. I'm going to put it all together and make it real easy for you to warm up to some cold calling. And before we get into the show, here's a couple of our friends who make this show possible. Feeling lost with accounting, bookkeeping, or payroll for your small business? Accounting by Art offers a free one-on-one consultation for the state of your business. Art Stump has years of experience helping small business owners with their accounting needs. He also offers QuickBooks training seminars covering both QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online, as well as addressing your specific needs and questions. Seminar participants also get a free 1-hour office visit after the class to be sure their QuickBook issues are solved to their satisfaction. Mention this ad at your consultation and get 10% off initial services when you sign up and pay for your first month. Visit accountingbyart.com today and get started. Tired of high prices and low service when purchasing ink for your home or office printer? CR Office Technologies offers their hassle-free guarantee. If it's not right, we'll make it right. They know that customer service is number one. At CR Office Technologies, you get great service on top of great products at prices that you can't beat. They have laser and fax toner cartridges, inkjet cartridges and paper, laser fuses and drum kits, copier toners, and more. Visit crofficetech.com. That's crofficetech.com to get the price, quality, and service that you've been looking for. Here we are for our next episode of Real Live Marketing, and we're with Kate Brockmeyer, and she's with Business Women Connecting. She's the CEO and founder of that organization. Hi, Kate.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for having me here.
Thanks for coming. So we're going to be talking about cold calling today, but before we do, can you tell me a little bit about Business Women Connecting, what it is?
So Business Women Connecting is a women's entrepreneurial and networking organization that we started here in St. Louis about 3 years ago. We started out as a group for moms in business. I was a young mom in business, and my target market at the time was moms, and I wanted to try and find some different avenues to connect with them, and I needed some support. So we created an organization, and our meetings grew and grew and grew. And last spring, we sort of had a make it or break moment and decided that we wanted to take it to the next step. And we found that women needed more. They wanted to network differently. They wanted to be networking. They needed some of these nitty-gritty bits of business, and we wanted to teach them those things that I had learned over the course of being in business. And so in July, we launched our organization, and we hoped we had 40 members. And by August 7th, our launch party, we already had 52 signed up. And via cold calling, we have literally grown this organization from our network that we had to having 6 chapters in Missouri and 4 4 in Illinois, and going up in 9 cities nationally between now and May. Wow. And it's just an incredible way to network differently than the way that it's happening already. The women are just total go-getters, and there is no commitment or pressure to bring guests, or you have to be there every month, every week, consistently like that. It's no commitment. So we want them to come to meetings and in the evening, and we have quarterly social hours and quarterly small groups, but there's lots of things going on and lots of things that we have to do and move around. And so we try to create an environment that allows for growth and for the relationships to build, but we don't require them to participate.
Great. That's great. What kind of, so that's a lot of chapters. That's really great, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. We're really excited.
That's very exciting. So, and then what kind of businesses join?
So it's any woman in business, whether they are network marketing, corporate, startup entrepreneur, first generation business owner. They had a company come down from mom or grandpa, somewhere along those lines. It's anybody and every woman in business. And we believe that you can be an entrepreneur in any aspect of your business. So some of our direct sales women, one of them works for Norwex, and she is working currently on getting the state of Missouri to open up their cleaning solutions that are approved for restaurants and hospitals. And she's working on sort of getting all of that approved so that Norwex applies, because it happened in the state of Indiana. So now she's working on it here in Missouri. So we believe that you can be an entrepreneur in anything that you do. And everybody and anybody can join if you're excited and want to network. So
good. That's great. How can people find you, by the way?
Businesswomenconnecting.com.
Okay, great. So if they're interested in hooking up, that's where they can go. Okay, good. So we'll have that in the show notes too. And then are you from St. Louis?
I am. Born and raised in Kirkwood.
Okay.
My dad was an entrepreneur as well. He owned a fire extinguisher company and clean hood systems, and sort of taught me about client relationships and how good, when you're good to people and people are good to you, how you can grow your business through word of mouth referrals and through all of the other avenues that we use. And so I went to Kirkwood High School, graduated from Westminster Christian Academy, and my husband and I live in Melville down by South County Mall. So
great.
Yeah.
That's good. It's good. So, and then did you go to school here in St. Louis then?
I did. I went to the University of Missouri, St. Louis.
Okay.
I did not graduate. However, I went for student teaching and special education. And by the time that sort of rolled around, my brain was in other places business-wise, and I'd kind of just let go of school. But I do want to go back for marketing and probably management and things along those lines. So it's on my list of things to accomplish.
Great. And you've had some businesses before this as well. You were including photography business and any other professions that you want to mention?
I've owned a photography company for about 7 years now. Mm-hmm. And I've also, in the last couple of years, which really kind of got more of this networking journey going for me, I owned a company called Art and Up. And we did little bit art classes 6 months to 6 years. We went into local businesses that shared our target market. So we didn't have any overhead. And they promoted it and we promoted it. And we brought in new people into their business and into my business. And it was a great company. And what I learned through that was how important the relationship part of building a business is, and that when we all sort of work together and we can cross market together, that there's so much more we can do. Sure. And so looking at the support group we had and looking at that, I was like, wait a minute, we can really do some big things in this town and make some big differences. And so that's kind of how we got moving and grooving in this direction. So that
sounds great. That sounds like a lot of fun too, the art business.
So fun. It's like preschool for moms, so you get to go to preschool for a half hour, but they don't have to clean anything up. The teacher cleans everything up, lays it all out there, and then teacher facilitates the class and reads the book, and the little guys run around, and then they all come back, get messy, and out the door you go. So it's perfect. Works out great.
That's awesome. There's definitely a market for that.
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, today we're going to talk about cold calling, and I was happy to hear that was a subject you're interested in.
Yes.
It's like one of your favorites?
It is. I think I'm like one of the only people in town that loves to cold call. It's like one of my favorite things to do. And we do it a lot. So we cold call to 60 to 90 businesses a week, both here in St. Louis and out of town. Just this weekend, I reached out to a woman in LA, and I was like, hey, I saw your Facebook page. I loved your marketing. I thought it was really great. I head up this organization here in St. Louis. I'd love to talk to you about it if you're interested. She called me immediately and was like, I'm interested. So
that's great. And that's what cold calling is. Cold calling is basically like calling out of the blue. Mm-hmm. You never had any contact with the person before.
Right.
They're just on a targeted list for you, a list that you've created or acquired somehow. And so you're basically like just out of the blue calling, and there are a lot of people that hate doing it. But you just did how many calls?
We do 60 to 90 a week.
60 to 90 a week.
Yeah.
Huh. Just reaching out to businesses, asking them if they want to be part of your group.
Yeah, basically asking them. One of the key elements to cold calling is that you make sure that the benefit that you're communicating to who you're cold calling outweighs your own personal benefit. So I'm sort of in a nice place with Business Women Connecting that I can outreach to them and say I have a whole network of women behind me. But even if you're trying to sell a good, say, or a service, like with our Art and Up, when we would reach out to a business, we would say the benefit of working with us and letting our art classes come into your environment and your building is that we are bringing in your target market. We are bringing in the people that you are already trying to reach. We're just going to help you reach it we already have our own connections. And so let's just kind of move it and work together. So the cold call part of it for me is that I try to make sure that I am reaching out to people that would be interested in our organization. So ideally a woman-owned business. The Joy of Yoga, which is a local yoga shop in South City, just had a sponsored ad come down Facebook. And sponsored ads, I feel, are, it kind of depends on who your target market is on Facebook. But the sponsored ad said no flexibility required. And it was a picture of their front doors. And I was like, that's brilliant. I had no idea if it was women-owned or not. And I reached out to her via Facebook and I said, hey, I head up this women's organization. I just want to let you know it's the best marketing ad I've seen come out in a really long time. And I would love to sit down with you. And she was like, this is women owned and I would love to talk to you too. So we had coffee. It was a great chat. And we hit it off. So it was awesome. So you just never know who you're going to connect with. People want to know about what you're doing. And that's the mentality that I have when I cold call, is that ultimately people want to know. How do they find out? Well, it's through big PR packages typically, and creating a trust with your brand by putting it out there over and over and over again. But not everybody has all the funds to be able to do that. And so I just take the mentality that they want to know. And every time I cold call, I feel like I'm doing them a service.
Absolutely.
And that's how it works out.
Yeah. And anybody can have a phone. I mean, a phone is like,
Right.
I mean, you shouldn't be scared of your phone. That's,
right. No reason.
Phones are your friend.
Yeah. Right. Yes. This can only do better for you. I did a small group a couple of weeks ago and I sat down. One of our members owns the Fashion Lane, which is a fashion truck. And she was like, I just have a hard time telling people. And so I grabbed a couple of her cards and I walked over to 3 ladies that looked super fashionable. And I was like, hey, I'm not sure you've heard of this company before, but we'll bring a fashion truck to your place, your home or place of business. And we can have a party and your friends can come and shop on the truck and it's a lot of fun. Let me know if you're interested. And I think she ended up getting a couple calls out of that. So, they want to know. People want to know what's going on, especially in local business and locally owned small businesses. People want to support. And the more that we can teach them to support locally and to keep it all here locally, the better we can all do for our community. So
that's great. That's great. So you do that's a lot of cold calls, and you must do a pretty good job of getting through whoever you have to get through to talk to the person you need to talk to. Yeah. What are like some of your tricks on getting past the person?
I think that it's a little bit of it is using your own networks. So if I have somebody that I want to, here's a really good example. Somebody asked me to make a connection with MasterCard. I had no idea that MasterCard was headquartered here in St. Louis, in O'Fallon. And I was like, how am I going to make that connection? But big corporations often let smaller businesses come in and set up tables. And so they wanted a connection to try and get their business at a table within the corporation. And so I was like, okay. Well, then I did a little research and I found out that MasterCard has their own women's organization. They have Women 2.0. And they had an event here in St. Louis. And I went and I ended up meeting the vice president of internal processing and applications. And then she and I had coffee. And then we sat down and talked about it. And she came in as a member. So, I think some of it's a little bit of a navigational work. Putting yourself in the right places, not being afraid to go out into the community, to go to events that you might not know anybody at, and putting yourself out there. But I think it's also maybe sort of looking at your network as a whole and saying, oh, so-and-so and I have a mutual friend on Facebook. I'm going to reach out to them and ask them to connect me. And then I can cold call that way a little bit. But it's also persistence and wording your cold call appropriately. So in saying that, hey, I would love to tell your owner about, I reached out to a clothing store in South County that opened up, and it's a social media intern. I totally get that. And I said, I'd love to connect with your owner in regards to this women's entrepreneurial organization. I know that you guys just opened up. And I had a couple barriers, oh, well, we'll get back to you in November. Oh, hit us up after the holidays. Okay, no problem. But it's a little bit of persistence and just reminding myself, oh yes, I need to make sure that I follow up with them again. The persistence almost always wins because they're like, okay, and not in a slimy, like nagging sort of way, but in a, hey, I would really just like to tell you guys about this organization and how I think it'll benefit your target market. You're targeting professional women. I have an organization of professional women, and so using your product to show them how they're going to benefit more than you're going to benefit from them using your product or getting to know your service or using your service.
Sure. It's pretty, I mean, like any business has like a reason why people want it.
Right.
Right. And so if you know what that reason is and you punch it up and you persist, and then the other thing is follow up. You mentioned follow up.
Yes.
Key.
Follow up is so key. And it's the follow-up of, I think, all the way across your business. So if you start yourself where you're following up with your clients and you're saying, hey, great session, photography-wise, had a great photography session with you, loved seeing you, hoped your mom loved the pictures, here's something I have coming up, good to see you. So that's, if you start following up with everybody across the board, then it doesn't seem anything less that you would do than to follow up with your cold calls. So if I make a cold call to you and I want you to come and speak at an event for me and I don't hear from you 6 weeks later, 2 weeks later, I'm most likely going to send you another email and say, hey, I'm so sorry. I'm sure we just got, disconnected or you missed it, but I'd really like to speak to you about speaking at our event. And it's more of like a friendship, and it's not so, I customize everything. So every time I send out an email, it's custom. And it's not custom as in where I plug in someone's name in a mass email that I'm sending out. And I understand that it's tedious. It does take up some time. But for me, that personal connection is what makes my cold calls better, because people are talking about me. They're hearing that I'm most likely going to be calling them, or when I do call them, they're like, yes, so-and-so just told me that I needed to connect with you. And I'm going, great. So it kind of takes out that, it makes it more of a personal connection, and it doesn't feel like a cold call. You don't want it to feel like a cold call, like you've called 900 people in one day and you're clearly not happy about calling them because you just want it to be 5 o'clock and be done. I don't feel that way. So there has to be a little bit of passion. There has to be a little bit of a drive. And you have to smile when you're on the phone. Mm-hmm. Smiling is so key. I typically tend to stand up and sort of wander around a space or sort of laugh with them a little bit. And when I'm straight cold calling, no connection, nothing out the door, it's hey, this is Kate Brockmeyer. I own Business Women Connecting, and I really wanted to talk to you about how I think this women's entrepreneurial organization is going to do big things for your business. I think you'd be a great fit. So really communicating to them what it is about what I offer is going to make the difference for them.
That's great. Yeah, one of the things you mentioned, I mean, I believe in all those, by the way, standing up, smiling, right? And one thing you mentioned is like having your writings be original. Yes. Not based on a script, but they're actually what you really feel.
Yes.
So it makes you more real to the person, because if it's a form letter or something you're doing because you have to and you're not genuinely interested, well, it comes across that way.
Right.
It's fake.
Right. And that's sort of where, for us, the authenticity and integrity of bringing that back into business and the way women do business comes in. When we all, you go to an event and you get a card and all of a sudden you're getting spammed with somebody's newsletter, or you're getting spammed with this and all these different things. And you're going, I'm trying to just field my own business. Like I can't take all this extra stuff. So now people are creating these emails that are just for newsletters, they're like, I'll go in there and read it whenever I want. And so what I really want for the members of our organization to do is to kind of get away from that. And when you meet somebody at an event, one of the things that I do is I have a little bit of a gift where I have a photographic memory for names, faces, and details. So I'm a little bit better at being able to recall things from previous conversations to put into my emails or my cold calls. Or, hey, Joy of Yoga, I know that Sydney Wooler goes to you for this, and she told me to contact you, and she said that you're really passionate about growing women business in town. So I'm able to pull those things. But one of my tips to my members is that flip somebody's business card over. Make sure you have a business card that's paper and can be written on, and not one of those glossy ones, because nobody can put any details on it. And just jot a few details down really quickly about if somebody gives it to you as a referral, because you're going to have to cold call that referral, that you can then say, okay, Sydney Wooler gave this to me. She's with Visiting Pet Nurses. This is a pet sitting company, dog walking company. And I want to make sure that I mention why dog walkers would do so well in a professional women's organization, a dog walking company. Entrepreneurs are busy and we're gone 60 hours a week and our dogs are locked up in their kennels or their living rooms or whatever, and why that type of a service would be so important. And so that's sort of what I strive to bring across to members. And so then when I go to cold call, or when they go to cold call, they can flip that card over and go, okay, these are my five notes about this person. Hey, Sydney Willer gave me your information, and I'd love to talk to you about your pet sitting business and how coming into an organization of professional women will help you do that. And just keeping it it's always about them. So it's about the sale, and it's about making that salesy connection, that sale connection. But it's also about just really telling them, this is why you need to know about me. I'm important, and this is why you need to know. And you're missing out if you're not a part of doing what we're doing. And so that's sort of the cold call mentality that I think I take, and it's worked out really well because we've grown our organization. Probably about 85% of the members have been literally from just a cold call outreach of, hey, this organization is awesome and you should be a part of it.
That's awesome. That's great. That's great. So do you work out, like when you're doing a cold call, do you have like some sort of outline what you want to say? I mean, at this point, I know you have it down, right? But when you first started and you were going to sit down and make your first couple of weeks worth of calls, I guess working out some sort of rough outline is a good idea.
Yeah, I did have a rough outline of things that I wanted to get across. I wanted to talk about that we're an organization with authenticity and integrity, or I picked 5 to 6 things about our business, the organization at a time, that I really wanted to make sure I told people. But I also practice in my car all the time. So when I'm driving around town, before I leave a voicemail, before I call somebody, I just do a quick blip and just practice really quickly. Or while the phone is ringing, I'm practicing my voicemail so that I sound confident and determined and excited to talk to them. And please call me back at your convenience, but I'd love to hear from you today. And really emphasizing that I do want to connect with them and I do want to hear what they have to say, and that I'm interested in what they offer or what I think they can offer the organization, and vice versa. And so I think practicing, I always say, practice in the shower. I think that's where I get my best ideas, early in the morning. Practice when you're, working out in the gym. I don't care if I look crazy and I'm talking to myself on the treadmill. It's totally fine. And then practice in your car because nobody can hear you. Mm-hmm. And, you're just doing your thing. And that's kind of how you get a feel of your hand motions and where you really want to let people know that, yes, this is an important piece. And sometimes I play my own devil's advocate and ask myself, like, why is this important? What is this organization going to do? Well, we're revolutionizing networking, and I just keep telling myself that. And you have your 8 points that are important to get across, but those 8 points are important to you. And that's what you keep telling yourself every day. And as you continue to believe in those 8 points, it pours from your body and it just falls out of your mouth easy and seamlessly. And you can command a room instantly because people are like, yes, I want to know what she has to say. It all falls together.
That's awesome. Wait, and you mentioned passion, which, I think part of what a person has to do is they really have to be sure that they're sold. And you mentioned this, they have to be sold on what it is that they're selling.
Right.
They have to be totally closed. So they have to take a look at a couple things. One, what makes them different or unique? Mm-hmm. What makes them special? Why is it important that a person go with you? And then also you have to take a look at, and those are reasons why, the good reasons, right?
Right.
And then you have to take a look at the reasons why you might be unsold on yourself and your product, and figure out what you're going to do about those to resolve them so that they're no longer an issue and get them sort of out of the road. So, right. So you've got to pick up that phone and be, one, you've got to be enthusiastic enough to want to take the time to do
right.
it, right? And that gets you past most of your what would be procrastination. Is if you don't procrastinate about going swimming if you
right.
love to swim.
No,
right?
You're going to jump right in.
Just jump right in. So if you're enthusiastic about getting on the phone or talking about your product, then you're going to jump right in more likely than not. So you got to really sell yourself, but then also handle those reasons why you'd be unsold.
Right. Well, and I think that cold calling is something that a lot of people put off, and they're like, oh, I don't want a cold call. Or, I talked to a woman the other day that sells health insurance, and she was like, I have a whole list of people that I need to cold call and I just don't want to do it. And I was like, you have to look at that as money going down the drain every single second of every day that you don't call them. That's what it is that you're letting them slip right through the cracks. That's money that you could be using to send your kids to Disney. That's money that you could be using to, go on a trip to Jamaica or whatever it is that you like to do, buy yourself a new bike or whatever. That's all money that you're just letting slip away because you don't want to make a 30-second phone call to see if they're interested. And I think part of cold calling that I really try to stress to everybody is that there can't be any self-doubt, and you have to pump yourself up before, if it's your first time making a cold call, it's hard. It's really hard to put yourself out there and to be vulnerable. But in this day and age, people like vulnerability. They want to know that you're willing to take that extra step, to go that extra mile, to reach out to them. And it's hard, but they want to see that. And so then when they say, no, we're not interested, you say, hey, no problem. Thank you so much for your time. Or one of the things that I always ask first is this a good time? Is this a good time for you? Oh, it's not? Okay, no worries. Is there a time that you'd like to reschedule? No? Okay, no problem. Thank you so much for this time. I really appreciate it. And I value you, or I appreciate you is a phrase that I use a lot because we don't tell people how often we appreciate them. And even just a 30-second phone call of a practice, I appreciate you. Thank you for letting me, AKA practice. Like, I appreciate that. And that's what it is cold calling is practice. And you do have to practice and you do have to do it on a regular basis. I mean, we email cold call. We're doing an event January 22nd, and I just cold called a whole ton of people over the weekend being like, hey, and we don't have that many tickets left, which is really exciting, but they're not going to know about it any other way. We're not doing a radio an article. We don't have anything major going out about it. And so the best way that we can do is just to outreach and put it out there on the, Chamber of Commerce websites and start cold calling people via that and saying, hey, I found you on the Kirkwood Chamber. Thanks for adding your email because we're sending you an email now. And it doesn't mean that I'm adding them to our newsletter. We're not going to start spamming them with anything. And I think that's a fine line is that, it's one thing to cold call and it's another thing to get someone's business card and automatically start hitting them with your newsletter. That's not even that personalized anyway, and because you don't know where people are in their life and where they're at in their business or what's happening. And we don't want to take any time from them that's any more than they're willing to give. And I think that's sort of behind the organization a little bit too, is that we don't want our members to work the organization. We want them to work their business. And that's very different than a lot of organizations in town where they think that they have to bring guests and bring, referrals and all these things for the organization to get better. We don't believe that. We have a core team here in each one of our cities and we work the organization. So
you bring them in.
Yeah, we're the avenue. And then it almost eliminates cold calling a little bit because all they have to do is say, hey, I'm a member of Business Women Connecting and you are too. Can we sit down? And then you're in. But I get to spend all the time cold calling and they get to just reap the benefits. So it works out really well for everyone.
That's awesome. What was your first, how would you describe the first time you ever did your first cold calling compared to how it was now?
I'm sure it was really horrendous and awkward. I'm sure it was pretty awful. I've been cold calling for so long. I was in business very early on and young, and I started selling stickers door to door when I was very young. I would color them and sell them. I can't believe my neighbors bought them from me, but thank you for buying from me, and because it sort of spurred that in me and got me excited about business and about making my own money and hard work, that goes into that. And so I'm sure that my first cold call was very choppy. And I may have hung up before the person actually said yes or no, I'm interested, because I was like, I don't want to know. Click, never mind. To now where I find, depending on what we're cold calling about, I'll find a few sentences that I really like that I think kind of explain what we're looking for. And so if it's an email cold call, I'll send that out. If it's an actual cold call phone call, I will, think about what is my pitch. Pitching is the foundation of pretty much everything. And so having that solid 10-second pitch, 30-second pitch, 1-minute pitch, and the 10-second is, we're a women's entrepreneurial and networking organization geared towards go-getter women, and I would love to tell you more. And when they say, yes, I want to meet up with you for coffee, or no, I don't want to meet up with you for coffee, I say, no problem. If you ever decide that you want to network some more or in a different way, please let me know. And so now I'm sure it's much more confident and seamless, and I don't hesitate to answer the phone. This is Kate. You get it all the time, and we just take it as it comes.
That's great. What would you say is your biggest lead or sale that you've ever achieved from a cold call? Like your biggest bounty from one cold call?
Oh man, like a dollar amount or a
yeah, whatever you consider the very successful, huge, success with a cold call.
That's a really good question. I think that the biggest success for me out of a cold call has been kind of finding the gateway people in town for Business Women Connecting that are big networks to other women in town. I think that's the biggest, where all of a sudden they're going, wait a minute, I've never heard of this organization. Tell me more. And so I tell them more and they go, I know a whole bunch of women that would be really excited about this. And so you've all of a sudden you found this, the door that's going to eliminate the additional cold calls. I'm like, oh yes, she's on my list and she's on my list and she's on my list. Amazing. I would love for you to connect me to all of those ladies, and then it makes them feel like a resource. And that's sort of the best thing that we can do for a big lead or sale in a cold call, is that we're making that person almost feel like a resource by telling them about our business. Because if you have somebody that is new to town and they just moved here in a big company, and I'll use Sydney Wooler for the visiting pet nurse, she comes out and takes care of your sick animal, or if your dog has diabetes and needs shots all the time, she'll come out and do that so you don't have to take them into the vet's office. And so a young person moves to St. Louis and they have this sick dog and they haven't found a vet and all this stuff. And I call and tell them about Business Women Connecting. They pop on the website and they find out about Sydney. And now they know about Sydney and they're telling everyone in their office about Sydney because they came in through this organization that now opens them up to all these other people. And so creating this resource, I think that's sort of the big win for me in the cold calling is finding these other people in town that are, big resources. And it's not so much a dollar amount always. It's not so much of a, oh yes, we landed this member, we've been targeting this member, and yes, and it's amazing, and that member that you're like, MasterCard was one of them where I was like, they're not going to join this. And she was like, I'm in. And I was like, amazing, sold. But it's really about some of those other avenues.
That's great. That's awesome. Well, good. And then, I one thing that I know I've done, and maybe you have a tip of your own on this, but like some people are really adverse to doing we're getting on the phone. They don't want to do anything with it at all.
Yes.
You may have noticed. You run into it, right?
Somebody just said that to me this morning. She's like, I would rather stab a fork in my eye than make a phone call. And I was like, what? Say that.
That's hilarious. Well, one of the things, one of the drills that I've seen, which is from a book called Problems of Work, and I'll put it in the show notes, a link to it so people can buy it. But a simple process of touch and let go on the phone, like where you touch the phone and then you let go of the phone, and touch the phone and let go of the phone, and touch the phone and let go of the phone, and just keep doing that and until you start having a reaction of some sort, whatever that might be. And then keep doing it till the reaction goes away until you're actually happy about the phone.
Those are some really severe cases.
Yeah, but it happens. It's funny. It probably even, it's like, somebody like that, somebody who's like that. I've even done it with somebody who says, sure, I'll do phone calls. Great. Well, I've got a little exercise I'm going to do with you first. And we have them touch the phone, let go of the phone, and they have to exhibit a reaction. Right. And then we have them keep going until they blow through that reaction. And they're much more comfortable with the phone afterwards. Right. And that's my little tip for getting over, have you had any success getting people over that hump of being unwilling?
Yeah. So I get to play this really cool role as the founder of this organization, that I get to play kind of a mentor role too. And so I get to support them in their businesses, and they call me up and say, hey, I need an idea for this. And I get to help them kind of think of some things. And, I'm not sure that I have something that is that fabulous and scientifically probably proven and works, but I really just work on them to build up their confidence. And I think that building your confidence is a huge part of, and knowing your business, really knowing the ins and outs of what you're trying to achieve, what your goals are, and then taking that and touching the phone and picking it up and making that call, so that confidence-wise, I'll drill them, and I'll give them questions, and I'll say, I don't want to hear it today. Or I'll kind of be that negative energy. And I think it's more about honing your positive energy and not letting the negative penetrate you and just bouncing it off and just, continuing to go at it. So for me, I think it's a confidence thing, building up that part of it. So
no, that's great. I think that's important too. Being sold on your product, handling the reasons why you're not sold on it. And then the other thing you said, practice or drilling, where you're practicing on your own, but then also practicing maybe a little role playing with somebody where they can hit you with whatever.
Yeah, tough questions and
what have you. And then the last thing that we do, by the way, just so you know, is we put somebody on the phone and then we just make them keep doing it until they actually get a result. Till they actually well, that's like, you can do a combination of these things, but then making them keep at it until they finally close a deal, or get the product that they're, and then that builds confidence better than anything I can think of.
Well, and that's what I always say is get that hands-on experience. So pitch to the grocery store clerk. That's a cold call. Pitch to somebody at the gas station who's checking you out that, is wearing a fitness t-shirt, and you're like, hey, this is what we do. This is what we offer. don't hesitate. I mean, I met a lady in Old Navy that does expos, but does the pieces you need. So the tables and the chairs, and puts it together so that it looks like a real space and not like an expo table. And I met her because I had heels that I was purchasing for a photo shoot. And she was like, oh, you know, those are really cool. And I told her what I did. And so I was pitching to her. And so to constantly pitch everywhere all around you so that it becomes, it's seamless. You don't think twice about it. So when you get on that cold call and they're either, you know, you'll talk to some people on the phone and they sit there in silence and you're trying to fill that dead space. What do you fill that with? More information about your business. You know, you just keep rolling it around. And then when you do get that sale, the cold call sale feels 1,000 times better than any other sale there is because you don't get to see them. Or when I'm talking to somebody on the phone, telling them all about the organization, and I go, and the next step is this is how you register, and this, you know, this is what will happen if you come in as a member today or tomorrow. And they go, it's okay, I already sent my payment in. I'm like, all right, well, that's excellent. We'll go ahead and get that, you know, get your registration form right over to you. And, you know, and how that the entrepreneurial spirit and fire is something that it's almost something that you can grow it within yourself, but once it catches for you, that's it. Like that taste of entrepreneurship it's uncanny. I can't explain it in anything else that I do. And when you find your passion with entrepreneurship that connects, it's just a ball of fire that is like unstoppable. And I think that's kind of where the cold calling part comes in, is you're like, I don't care. I'm going to cold call everybody in this town until I buy it, until I get what I need, or I get the sale, or I get the connection I'm looking for, or I make whatever I'm looking to make. I'm going to do it. I'm on it.
That's awesome.
And that's how it kind of rolls together. So yeah, works out really well.
That's a blast. Okay, good. All right, well, that's a lot of fun. Hopefully you'll learn something about cold calling, and we're going to put some additional information in the show notes, some tips you can use. There's another great book that I'll recommend that I'll put in the show notes that you would love. By the way, it's called the 10X Rule, and it's about basically 10Xing your expectations on your goals. So if your goal was to make $1 million, well, just go ahead and decide that it's 10 million.
Right.
And figure out what you need to do to get there.
Yes.
And I think it seems to be the kind of attitude you have. And I think, you know, if you don't have a budget, you got to pick up the phone.
Right.
You know, pick up the phone to start. And lists are everywhere. Newspapers, you're walking through a store. That's a type of cold call people hadn't even thought of.
Right.
You know, they're walking through a store and always have those business cards on you so you can make that cold call right there and then.
Right.
So that's fantastic. So in wrapping up here, what would you say is the mindset or strategy that you feel kind of sets you apart and is responsible for your success with this tool? I know you probably already mentioned it, but one more time, just what's the mindset and strategy, or strategy that you feel really sets you apart and makes you responsible for your success?
Yeah, I think that it's just go-getterness. Like, is that a phrase or a word, go-getterness? I'm not really sure. It is now. We just made it. You know, I think it's just about every single day I get up and say to myself, I'm going to make $100 today. Every day. And some days I make $100. Sometimes I make more. Some days I don't make anything. But I made connections that are going to get me closer to making $100 a day. And if you tell yourself that every single day, and you wake up every day, and you know, as an entrepreneur, there are days that you're like, somebody put the rock over my head because I don't want to get up. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that, or whatever. But you just have to look through it and look past it and think, I'm not the only one that feels this way. There are other entrepreneurs in my boat. Surrounding yourself with people that feel that way, business owners that not feel that way on a regular basis, but that can support you. And you can find a network of people that get you, and you make friends. I think through networking, I've made friends that I can't imagine my life without. I look at them and I'm like, where have you been my whole life? Like, I feel like I've known you forever, but it's not been that long. And I can't remember that you weren't at my wedding. Like, it's really bizarre. But I think it's just the strategy is just every single day getting up and owning it, and owning the day, and owning everything that comes your way, and being accepting and open to chances, and to taking leaps of faith, and you know, jumping and being 70% of the way and going at it and hitting it, and not being afraid, and giving up that fear of what if I do this. Just do it. There is no other option. So I guess, is that a strategy? I guess so. It's my strategy. Go get it every day. Go
get it every day. That's a great strategy.
Yeah.
All right, great, Kate. Thanks for joining us today.
Problem.
So check out in the show notes, if you're local here in St. Louis or over in Illinois, check out Business Women Connecting. And you can find that link in the show notes. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Now, wasn't Kate awesome? You may want to actually listen to that again and again to really get the feel and the flavor of how cold calling is to be done. If you've got no budget at all, you've got a phone, you got fingers, and you can pick up the phone, smile, and dial. So as promised, here are your 8 tips on how to make the most out of cold calling. Number 1, be sold on your product and you. If there's some reason you don't think that your product's the best, you need to handle that reason. Also, you need to take a look at why what you're doing is more valuable than what the other guys are doing. Even if they're in the same business and selling the same exact product, there's got to be a reason why doing it with you is more important. And you've got to be sold on you and your product. All right, number 2, be enthusiastic. That liveliness comes through on the communication line. If you're not interested, if you're not excited about what you're doing, why should the person you're talking to be? Why should they be interested or excited in what you're doing if you're not? So you've got to be enthusiastic. Number 3, have a list ready and make it big enough. You've got to do enough calls in any given week to make it worthwhile. Kate does about 70 or so cold calls a week. That's in addition to other marketing she does, but she gets that many cold calls done any given week. It's part of her regiment. Now you should have your list ready. You don't want to go hunting around. So put the list together and be good to go. Have your computer there so you can look up the needed phone numbers or other information you might need. And then, point number 4, do a bit of research. Take a minute and look up the person's website. Find something you like about them. It only has to take like a minute to do this. You've got the internet and the world at your fingertips. So Google them, look them up on LinkedIn, find something that you like about their business, their website, them personally, make them a little bit more real to you. Which brings me to the next point. You need to be real. Don't be fake on the phone. Probably the thing that gives the salesman in general a bad name is when they're fake or disingenuous. Be yourself, be real as you're communicating. Now you might think this conflicts in some cases where I said earlier, be enthusiastic. Well, if you're not enthusiastic about your product, that's a problem, and it's covered by the earlier thing of be sold on your product and you. You need to get enthusiastic and be enthusiastic, and that needs to be real. I'll tell you, if you practice being enthusiastic for a while, it will start to become more natural. But whatever you do, make it real. Point number 6, make sure the person's ready to listen to you. Ask them if they have time. Ask them if they'll take a few minutes. If they have no time, tell them to give you 30 seconds and make those 30 seconds count. They could very easily turn into a half hour or more great conversation if you do the right thing with those first 30 seconds. But make sure they're ready to listen to you, even if it's for only a half a minute. Get their attention. Number 7, talk the benefit and make it the right one. So you got to talk about the benefit for the person, why it's good for them. And you need to know that it's a benefit that your audience will respond to. If during the course of your time at trade shows and in networking meetings, you ask people what their biggest business challenges are and what your type of business should offer as a solution to their difficulties, if you do this regularly at networking meetings and such, you should have a good idea of what benefit people will respond to. And then you need to talk up that benefit and how you're a solution for it. Lastly, make it easy to say yes. The first call may not be the place to ask for the big commitment. We didn't ask Kate, but I'll bet that she lets many business owners come to her meetings initially without any obligation. It's easy to say yes to something like that. Some sort of free offer or low-cost offer that gets the person to try out your services. You should have something like that planned out and worked out. And again, make sure it's something that's appealing to your audience because you've done a little research or you've taken a look and you know what type of thing that they would respond to. This is all done so you can make it easy for them to say yes. So hopefully you've enjoyed the show and you feel a little bit warmed up to the subject of cold calling. But cold calling may not be the area marketing-wise that you need the most help in. There may be something else and you're not sure and you can't put your finger on it. Well, go to my website, reallivemarketing.com, and request a marketing consultation. We have a service called a Marketing Potential Analysis, which will help you to find the weak points in your marketing strategy. One of our consultants will do this analysis with you over the phone or in person and will help you to locate your weak points in marketing. At which point, we'll be happy to offer some solutions, but minimally, you'll know where to look and where to go once you've done this analysis. Again, go to my website at reallivemarketing.com, ask for a marketing consultation right there on my website. Fill out the form, send it in. One of my people will call you. We look forward to helping you. And thanks for listening this week. Join us next week for some more Real Live Marketing.